Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of episode 15 AR Fitness and Athletics. Today, I am going to continue with the second part of my day 1 program, which would be bench, upper back exercise, abdominals, and shoulders. And as you can tell, I called it the bench press as opposed to chest exercise because the focus is on the exercise itself, which is the bench press, as opposed to building the chest muscle, which will happen regardless. When you're doing bench press, your front deltoids, your triceps, your chest muscles will be working. But because when I compete, or one of the exercises is the bench press, the focus is on the movement and not so much building the muscle for mass. We are building for strength. I'm on the bike right now doing my warm-up because we never skip the warm-up. I'll be a few minutes on the bike over here, some dynamic stretches, and then we're gonna hit the gym floor. See you in a few minutes. So as with the squats, you want to start to mimic the movements that you're gonna do. So we're gonna start with some light pressing movements with the band. This is a warm-up. And then you want to do the same for the back. So today is one of those days where we learn to adapt. One of the bench presses is out of service right now, so I've had to jump into the squat rack, as you can see, to do my bench press routine. I apologize in advance for the taping, but again, this is a perfect example of how you learn to adapt, move on. You don't just throw in the towel because something's changed. So we're gonna make the best of today, and we're still gonna get it done. As per norm, we are going to start off with some lightweight and high repetitions. This is going to get our muscles ready and our nervous system ready for the work sets. My work set today is going to be 255, and that's going to be 5 sets of 3 repetition. Again, my goal is to get strong and not necessarily put on mass. Although, as I said in the previous video, that when you're working with weights, inevitably, if you're getting stronger, you will put on mass, and vice versa. If you're putting on mass, you will get stronger. But in terms of executing the lift, we do want to stay in a low rep range to gain strength, and we're working at anywhere from 65% up to even 95% of our maximum. So it depends if we're hitting some higher reps or if we're looking to do some very heavy singles. Now, I do want to point out, I do want you to note my form when I am doing the bench press. So as in the squat, even when I'm doing my warm-ups, I am trying to get in the position that I'm going to be lifting when I'm doing my work set. So I don't take any sets for granted. I don't try and lift sloppy at any given time. I try and execute the lift as properly as possible. And you want to take advantage of this when you're doing your warm-up. It is very hard, if not impossible, to change or work on your technique when you're working at or close to your maximum lifts. So you want to get that technique perfected when you're doing your warm-ups or when you're doing sub-maximal lifts, possibly anywhere in the rep range of, say, 6 to even 15 reps, and you want to work on your technique That's a light enough weight and a good rep range to work on technique. But when you're doing heavy singles or heavy triples, it's very hard to work on technique. So it has to be there when you're doing your top sets. As you approach your work set, you want to increase the intensity, but you want to decrease the volume. So in a situation like this, you want to maybe just get up to your maximum work set with doubles or singles. Once again, it's a warm-up. You don't want to fatigue your body. You just want to get it ready. I've seen too many times and in too many sports, people who are putting way too much effort into their submaximal training. So in other words, their warm-ups. And by the time they get to their work set, they've already exhausted themselves way beyond what they should. Again, you want to leave a lot of energy in the tank for your top sets, whether it's sprinting on a track, in the pool, doing jumps in volleyball, whatever it is, you want to make sure that the energy is there for your top sets and you don't want to overdo your submaximal lifts. If you pay close attention to my work sets, the triples, you'll notice that my third repetition is much slower than my first repetition. For instance, on this set, first repetition explosive, second one just as explosive, and by the third one, I'm moving the bar a lot slower. This is a good marker for me. This is letting me know that I'm working at the right intensity. If my third repetition was as fast as my first, and especially if it's on the last set, then I am working at too low an intensity. I want that third one to be hard. I want to be able to grind it out. That's how I know that I'm working at the right intensity level. The last thing I want to point out on this last set is my movement pattern. It has remained the same throughout all my sets. This is essential when lifting heavy weight. Next, we move into the upper back exercise. This particular one is a bent over row. In particular, it's called a pendlay row. The difference being is that on each repetition, you pause the weight on the floor and then lift again, as opposed to keeping it off the floor and doing it continuously. My upper back routine is very different from my chest routine, where in my chest routine, I am doing heavy triples. For my upper back, I am doing much more volume. So I'm doing 5 sets, but for repetitions of anywhere from 10 to 15 range, where I start off with 10 and each week I try to add repetition or 2. As this is not a competition lift, I am not concerned with the maximum amount of weight that I can do. So I add volume so I can still build strength, but I'm also able to build some muscle mass, which is great in helping support for all the movements in the bench press, squat, and deadlift. For those of you with a sharp eye, you might notice that I'm using wrist wraps to do this exercise. This ensures that my upper back gets the full amount of work and that my grip strength does not become a limiting factor while I'm doing this exercise. For those of you that have been counting my repetitions, you'll notice in the last couple of sets that I've gone from 12 repetitions down to 10 and then down to 8. This is because the fatigue is setting in. My ultimate goal for this exercise is to do 5 sets of 12. So if I'm not achieving it this time around, that's not a problem. That sets a goal for me. I still want to get 5 sets of 12. So I will try again on the next routine or on the next week of exercises, and if I can't get it then, I'll repeat it one more time. Once I've completed 5 sets of 12, I'll either move on with more weight or more repetitions. Regardless of what sport you train in, if you're getting to your goals too quickly, then it's probably not intense enough. Especially if you're an athlete and you're looking to improve, you have to make sure the intensity is there. Give yourself a challenge every time you work out. My last exercise combination for this routine is the hanging leg raise and the machine lateral raises for the shoulders. When I set up my workouts, I try to be strategic. I try to make sure that what the exercises I want to do are not too far away from each other, especially if I'm using machines or apparatus. When you're using free weights, it tends to be a little easier because you can keep everything close by. But when you're using machines, they're in a fixed place and You want to make sure that you're not having to walk across the gym every time you are moving on to another exercise. Regardless of the type of training that you do, you want to be efficient. You don't want your workouts to drag out unnecessarily. If it's a long workout that's full with exercises, that's fine too. But you don't want to just lose time waiting around, losing time just walking from one place to another, setting up. It becomes very cumbersome, and you don't want that in a workout. You want to execute efficiently and effectively. Programming your workouts in this fashion also helps to maintain the intensity, which is something you want in your workout. You want that mental intensity to stay intact as well as the physical intensity. This makes for effective workouts and gives you great results and makes you much happier with what you're doing at the end of the day. The question often arises as to whether using free weights is better than using machines. Like most things, there's pros and cons to everything. Machines are great in that they're very safe and they are designed to go through the movement pattern for that particular muscle. Contrary to belief, you can build a large amount of strength and you can work your muscles very effectively with machines. The big thing with the machines is that they are big and they are cumbersome and they are quite costly, and that's why you typically see them in commercial settings. Otherwise, they are a great way to help develop your muscular strength and your form. Free weights, on the other hand, allows for much more versatility in terms of exercises and in movement patterns. That would be your more traditional way of doing weight training, but machines have been around for quite some time now, and they have come quite a long way in terms of their effectiveness and their movement patterns. But again, the free weights does allow you to move in movement patterns that machines just won't allow you to do at this point in time. For those of you that do want to get into a weight training program, there's absolutely no reason why you can't use a combination of both in your routine. It actually keeps it more exciting, keeps it more flexible, gives you more variety, more exercises that you can do. So if you are looking to do a weight training program, keeping machines and free weights in your program will give you the benefits of both worlds, and you can decide which one you prefer as you go along.
That's it, folks. That's part 2 of day 1. That's my upper body portion of the workout. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you on the next episode.